Let's start with committing some crime today. You can do a lot of crimes if you do put your minds to it, or really sometimes even without it. For example, you can punch someone or even illegally download movies which you wanted to see from the internet. They all will be considered as crimes. However, imagine that when you were punching someone, it was actually in your self defense and to protect yourself, or you downloaded the movie when you were below the age of 10. Can you call the act of punching or committing the piracy by a child a crime in that circumstance? Probably no. So you see, committing crimes may be easy, but identifying what is considered a crime is difficult. Today we'll look at what are the elements of crime and the common law maxim of actus non facitrium nisi mens rea, meaning an act does not make one guilty unless the mind is also legally blameworthy. It tells us exactly about that. There are two major components of criminal liability. One is actus reus, second mens rea. Another element of crime is the agency. Who is actually doing the act, which is considered as a crime? Most probably it might be human being, as we don't obviously have aliens amongst us. Can animals commit crime? The answer to that is no. According to section 11 of IPC, only a person, which also includes body corporates, may commit crime. Now let's go back to the two new Latin terms that we heard previously. Yes, I'm talking about actus reus and mens rea. Two main components of criminal liability. What do we mean by actus reus? Let me start with an example. Let's assume that Arun wants to kill Varun. I'm sorry, Varun. Now, how can you kill someone? Again, there are various ways, and some criminals are very imaginative when it comes to that. But let's say that the cleanest and the quickest way might be to shoot Varun with a gun. Now ask yourself, what is the actus reus in the example? Is it the act of shooting with a gun? Or is it something else? Let's relook at the example once again. Here Arun has shot Varun and Varun is dead. Ask yourself this question: what is defined as a crime by the statute in the previous example? It is the causing of the death, which is considered as a crime under murder section 300 of IPC. I can shoot 10 bullets in the air or in the wall, but if it doesn't cause anyone's death, then whatever I have done cannot be considered as a crime under section 300. Simply put, actus reus is the event caused by your act, and such an event is defined as a crime in the statute. So, in the example mentioned earlier about Arun and Varun, it is the causing of death of the Varun which is the actus reus and not merely shooting at Varun. However, at the same time, I can also say that the act of shooting at Varun can also be considered as actus reus. Confused? Why would I say contradictory things? The reason is that they are not contradictory at all. In the second instance, the actus reus is not the actus reus under section 300 of IPC, that is murder. But rather one can say that the actus reus is there for an attempt to murder under section 307 of IPC. As under that section, the attempt itself to commit that particular crime is criminalized. Essentially, what can be considered as actus reus depends upon the provisions, and it can range from place, time, gender, etc. The other important criteria when it comes to actus reus is that the act needs to be voluntary and causa causans, that is, the immediate cause of the event. How can we say that an act is voluntary? Are there any such things as non-voluntary or involuntary act? Let's again look at two illustrations. First, in a game, X hits D's knees with a small hammer. By a reflex action, D kicks X in the face and breaks his nose. Second example, W steals a loaf of bread from a shop because the child is starving and she has no money. Which one is voluntary act in these examples? On the first illustration, the injury happened because of the reflex action and X had no control over his body, thus it cannot be considered as a voluntary act. In the second illustration, the mother is forced to feed her baby and thus commits theft. Although this act may attract sympathy, but we cannot say that it is an involuntary act. A voluntary movement of my body or my movement which follows a volition is a voluntary act. Voluntary act is defined under section 39 of IPC. Section 39 says voluntary means a person is said to cause an effect voluntarily when he causes it by means whereby he intended to cause it, or by means which at the time of employing those means he knew or had reason to believe to be likely to have caused it. So there's one illustration along with that, that is, A sets fire by night to an inhabited house in a large town for the purpose of facilitating a robbery, thus causes the death of a person. Here, A may not have intended to cause death and may even be sorry that the death has been caused by his act. Yet, if he knew that he was likely to cause death, he has caused death voluntarily. Further, it is your act which should cause the actus reus, and only then you may be held criminally liable. That is, it should be the causa causans. Let us go back to the previous example of Arun shooting Varun with a gun. We can clearly see that it is because of Arun's act of shooting that Varun died. Now let's change the scenario a little bit. Let's assume that after shooting Varun, Varun did not die at the spot and some people saw him lying on the ground. They called an ambulance for him and he was on his way to the hospital, but unfortunately, the ambulance met with an accident when a truck hit it on the highway. As a result of the accident, everyone in the ambulance died. Now, can we now blame Arun for the death of Varun in this circumstance? Most probably not, as the cause of the death of Varun is not a bullet injury, but rather the accident on the road. This is called as the principle of ordinary hazard. That is, certain hazards like accidents or natural acts where we do not have any control over it. What is important is that the chain of event of causation should not have any intervention which breaks the chain. Simply put, the act should not be too remote to the event caused. By now, you would have understood the first element of criminal liability, that is actus reus. The other element of criminal liability we'll discuss in the next session. Thank you.